India is known for a very fine, the finest embroidery that somebody can do only with the spirit of meditation. And Asif Shaikh has many awards, and he's a pride of our country as far as the embroidery goes. When you see his work and when you listen to him, you will know that embroidery, hand embroidery, is next to meditation, and it requires that perfection. On to Asif Shaikh.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Edric, for inviting me to present my passion, not paper. And in India, we have I don't know how many hundreds or thousand kinds of textile technique and embroideries, which I cannot cover in half an hour. You need few days just for introduction and the name to understand. So I will cover few embroideries from folk art or the tribal, and then I will cover the commercial part of the embroidery, which all the designers and the current fashion is using, and what I have revived, what kind of material I use for my embroidery, and my innovation in the embroidery. Thank you, Binaji, for the introduction. Not only as a speaker, but Bina and Keshav have introduced me to Edric, and I'm here since 2008. I came here first time, and since then I'm coming here. And thank you for giving me this opportunity. So I'll talk about little this presentation I have done in one day, and so please excuse me if you find any mistake. And I'm not scholar, I'm not professor, I'm an artisan. So I will share my passion and the way I work, and this is God gift to me. I have never learned embroidery, and I'm not textile historian, but I am a practitioner. So we talk about embroidery. So the Indian embroidery, India embroidered textile have always been closely associated with the habitats of and lifestyle of local communities. They have strong regional identities which the artisan have acquired through generations. So these are all nomad who are the oldest communities, and they have done amazing embroideries without using any kind of frame, and all mostly recycled material because they cannot acquire material from the market. Indian subcontinent manifested an incredible diversity of traditional textile over the century. Initially, that was used to strengthen the fabric. Over time, transport and involve its decorative effect as embroidery as a full-blown craft. It became a symbol of expression of particular skill, and also got uploaded for the creativity of the embroiderer. Indian embroidery includes a beautiful range of stitches and technique work on fabric with supplementary thread, as well as the embellishment of the fabric with materials such as mirror, metallic elements, coins, shell. Over the century, each region in India has developed its individual styles and variations. So these are the few images where we use embroidery for current fashion. So these embroidery can be what you have seen in film. Those are the commercial embroidery which are available in the market. It's a general market for everybody. But these are very high skill, specialized embroidery which we do in India. So most of the designers are using hand embroidery and creating their high couture garments. I will cover only few in terms of technique. As I said, I can't cover everything. So I will talk about now Kashida Kari. One of the most ancient and traditional type of intrinsic art defines its cultural essence through the medium of beads and thread work. Single stitch style is considered to be the signature style of Kashida Kari. So in India we have Kari and Dozi. This is called craftsmanship. So you will find these two words, kari and dozi, in most of our embroidery. There are many variations like sozni, which is a needlework, and ari, hook embroidery, the owl embroidery. Traditional motifs like animal, birds, flowers, fruits are woven into fabric with threads of gold and silver, which replicate the sheer essence of its mystic nature. So this is a thread embroidery. Then we have very important embroidery called counted thread embroidery. So first is Suf embroidery. Suf embroidery is from the counted thread embroidery practiced in Kutch region. The pattern is known. The pattern is not drawn on the fabric but built on around a series of triangles and diamonds. Often small pieces of glass or mirror, we call it shisha, are included in the design. So this is a counted thread embroidery work from the backside of the fabric. The designs are there in artisan's mind and they just transfer their dream on the fabric using just thread and needle. And then sometimes they add mirror, nowadays they add sequins and badla also. Second embroidery is Kasuti embroidery from Karnataka. Kasuti, kai, hand, suti, cotton. Comes from the state of Karnataka. Embroidery is practiced with single thread and involves counting of each thread on the fabric. The patterns are stitched without knots so that both sides look alike. Motifs mainly used are peacock and elephant. Fulkari. Full flower kari embroidery is produced in northern India, particularly in Punjab and Haryana. Designs are embroidered on hand-woven cotton fabric called khadar. Mostly yellow and white untwisted silken floss is used, which reflects the light. There are different kinds of fulkaris. In some designs, empty space are left, as well as in another entire surface of the fabric is covered. Some of the pieces made by Hindu women includes human figures and animal motifs. Muslim and Sikh women work have geometric designs in the type known as a bagh, which is a garden. Almost the whole surface of the fabric is covered with pattern done in surface and darning stitch. So these are the few counted thread embroidery. Now I'll talk about the narrative embroidery, which is a Nakshi Kantha from northern India. Kantha embroidered, that's from West India. So the Kantha embroidered textile was mainly made in West Bengal and Bihar. Kantha is traditionally known, made of recycled cotton saris and dhoti that have worn out, colored thread extracted from the borders of the old sari are used for embroidery, so 100% recycled. Kantha are made up of several layers of cotton fabric stitched together by designs in simple running stitch. Further designs are added using pattern, darning stitch, satin stitch and buttonhole stitch. Muslim women embroidered geometrical and floral pattern. Hindu women embroidered pictorial and narrative themes taken from daily life. So that's the Kantha, all recycled. So they use old saris. So sari we were talking about, so sari is with this form. So it's a never-ending textile. So it's the most beautiful, and we were talking about sari, so in between I would like to say most of the women in India have cut that sari and made ugly outfits. So that's a very sad part in the current fashion, which I'm not agree with. Chamba Rumal. Chamba Rumal, coverlet from Chamba, are made in several areas of northern India. The base fabric used is a very fine muslin, and the embroidery is practiced with untwisted silken floss. The stitches used are mainly satin and the back stitch, which are well finished on both sides. These textiles are often used to cover wedding gifts and have a sense of wedding rituals, and the images of gods. So these are mainly from North India, and the most beautiful narrative textile, and so finely done on a very fine muslin. Kachi embroidery, which is the most famous in India. The Kutch has 16 different kinds of embroidery, and one of the embroidery which we practice also is Ari. So one of the most fascinating historical and cultural inheritance of Kutch is a wealth of textile art. Women traditionally create densely work embroidered to beautify fabrics. Kachi embroidery features several stitches, one of which is an adaptation of cobbler stitch. This stitch work with an awl was used by cobbler to embellish leather goods. This technique was adapted over time for use on fabric and is now known as Ari embroidery. And I have created finest Ari now using very, very fine threads and the silk yarn for my finest Ari, which you have to see with the magnifying. I have one or two samples, so you can see later. An entire spectrum of Kachi embroideries worked with the creative and skillful use of needle without use of frame. When I say without use of frame, so in Indian embroidery we have never used any kind of frame. So the embroidery which I have talked about, Kantha, Fulkari, Suf, Chamba Rumal, we have never used any kind of frame. When Mughal, who were originally Uzbek, when they came to India, they brought scroll frame, and we started working on scroll frame. When Dutch, French, British came to India, they brought hoop round frame. So people have started using hoop in chikankari and few in other embroideries. But in Kutch, even they don't use any kind of frame. Even in Kantha, they don't use any kind of frame. So the metal embroidery which we do in Lucknow called Kamdani, even today they don't use any kind of frame. So this frame, karchob, we call it karchob, scroll frame, has plays very important role to produce commercial embroidery, which gives you the finest quality and production. The karchob, scroll frame is impressive in order to create fine quality embroidery. Basically, two types of embroidery can be done on karchob, Ari with silk and metal thread, with a number of variation in the stitches and the zardozi. So as I said, zardozi, so the dozi is a craftsmanship. So zardozi is derived from Persian word zar, meaning gold and silver, thread, and dozi meaning craftsmanship. In zardozi, metal elements are threaded through a needle and the motifs are embroidered wholly on particular these are Ari sample, I forgot to show. So these are the chain stitch, and now zardozi. So zardozi is derived from Persian word zar, meaning gold and silver thread, and zozi meaning craftsmanship. In zardozi, metal elements are threaded through a needle and the motifs are embroidered wholly or partially in different stitches such as satin, darning and stem stitches, as well as couching. As well as metal thread, metal wire of different shape, size and thickness are cut into required length. Metallic elements such as kangni, dabka, badla, salma and sitara are attached using fine stitches on embellishment for embellishment. Zardozi is subdivided Vasli, Dok, Marodi, this is couching, Danka, these are real gold plated silver foil, only one artisan left in the world who can make the Danka. Godapati, it is a woven silver lace, etc. Pearl carpet of Baroda, the making of a legion. The pearl carpet of Baroda for the past 150 years has been referred as an extraordinary work of art, a true testament to the wealth, sophistication, and grandeur of the legendary court of the Marathas. Embroidered with as many as 1.5 million of the fabled Basra pearl, which were harvested in the southern Gulf region of Qatar and Bahrain. The pearl carpet of Baroda is indeed a diamond, and the pearl exerted masterpieces of 19th century. The genius of the artisans had been clearly demonstrated in turning out a rug of regular and symmetrical design with a mathematical precision from the multitude of pearl, diamonds, rubies, sapphire, and emerald on varying gauzes that testify to their skilled workmanship and complete mathematical understanding. Gaikwad Khanderao, the Maharaja of Baroda, reputedly originally intended as a gift for the tomb of Prophet Muhammad. It is one of the most iconic masterpieces of Indian craftsmanship known today. This is, I think, now this carpet is in Qatar, in Doha Museum. Chikankari and Khamdani. Chikankari and Khamdani remains Lucknow's forte. Chikankari is subtle, sophisticated style of embroidery practiced with white cotton thread on fine white muslin, making the embroidery appears to be part of the fabric. The ethereal needlework, often referred to as shadow work, was perfect for embellishing summer attire. The motifs are generally floral paisley, which are stamped on the fabric with small wooden block dipped in color that is washed off after the embroidery is completed. Each pattern is designed in such a way that it seamlessly forms a part of garment in terms of size, shape, and placement. Since the color palette is limited to white on white, it was through the incorporation of different stitches that varied effects were created. So in this particular piece, there are so many different kinds of stitches which they create on white with cotton thread. Nowadays they use silk yarn and colored also to make this contemporary chikankari. Khamdani is one of the India's most beautiful and versatile embroidery. The badla or flat metal strip is used to create a dressy and sophisticated look. Khamdani requires a high degree of skill as after a few stitches the badla tend to get twisted. Treating the badla as if it were a thread, embroiderers are able to work a variety of stitches. After the work is completed, the embroidery is placed against a hard surface and the reverse side is very gently rubbed with cowrie shell to smooth the work and flatten the badla against the fabric. I have seen one artisan sitting in the market here, and she is doing badla work. And they are using frame, but in India we don't use frame. We just use a very big needle and a metal strip called badla, and then artisan work on the fabric. Now, this is what I have covered, few embroideries of India, and what is my vision for the embroidery and why I am here in this world to do an embroidery. Asif Shaikh, an artisan perspective. You call it craft, I call it art. I believe in hand embroidery, both from a soulful experience and from sustainability perspective. I take pride to create, innovate and mesmerize the world patrons and the custodian of art with one of a kind 21st century adaptation of Indian embroidery. My mission is to inspire and encourage new artisans to take to the needle and thread and save our legendary craft and collaborate our abundant culture. My mission stems from this belief that if we lose craft, we lose culture. CDS Art Foundation, which I started in 2016 after I had a big argument with Victoria and Albert Museum. When you copy the craft with the technology, you cannot use craft name with it. So you cannot have digitally printed ajrak, which was my argument with the Victoria and Albert Museum when they have showcased Fabric of India exhibition. So all textile was beautiful, but the contemporary textile was copied of the craft. And I told them why you are misguiding the world. You cannot use craft name with it. You can just write digitally printed textile. But how can you have digitally printed uakombu? The same way you cannot have digitally printed anything. You can just use digitally printed or machine woven or power loom, but can't use machine woven Kanjivaram or Banarasi. So I am not agree with that anywhere. CDS Art Foundation, which stands for Craft Design Society. Craft is artisan, design is designer, society is consumer. If we all come together, we cannot lose our craft heritage. Since its inception in 2016, it tirelessly supporting, training, empowering the Indian artisan who have been the gardener of their craft through generations, regardless of age, gender, religion across the nation. Now the popular saying today, future is handmade. Yesterday, even Chief Minister talked about handmade, and we always talk about handmade. But what will be in future? I 100% stand by it. My plea to the modern world and the textile industry to that if they believe to be true, then we all need to push the limits with our joint effort to bring it to life. We need to sow new seeds today to see future of rainforest tomorrow. If we don't answer to this urgently call to act today, we are going to risk losing our historic craft and the huge number of artisanal talent forever in the areas of handmade art and craft in the name of machine technology and modernization. We need to energize the world of hand embroidery like no other to infuse the soul into the textile, to encourage 21st century artisan and the design talent back into the arena to make a pause, gasp and celebrate. A short of adrenaline in the handmade embroidery world is needed to save, revive, innovate our craft for the future generation to blow their minds. So these are few embroidery which I create in my studio. So this is a chain stitch using natural dyed hand spun cotton yarn. These are Baroque design which I have converted into embroidery with chain stitch, and these are different kinds of chain stitch you can see on it. Parsi Gara. So Parsi Gara is mainly done in China. So the motifs are Chinese. I have done UNESCO's project to simplify the technique of picking knots, and we have created reverse chain stitch, Kuching. So this is Thai silk, and embroidery is done on Thai silk using Kuching technique. Hand woven silk from Creative Bee with natural indigo, and Keshav gave me cotton natural dyed yarn to do my award winning, I think I got UNESCO Seal of Excellence for this piece, and this is in their archive, so it's not with me. This design I got from Royal Family of Bihar, so this was there on their cap. So I have revived this design and that technique called Marori. The beetle wings, which I got it from Thailand again, and I have used beetle wings and using couching technique. Then I have added ruby in it, so these are real rubies and beetle wings. This gold thread, so the gold plated silver thread which we have revived in 2015, in India we have stopped making this in 1950 we got electroplating machine from France in 1930, and by 1950 we have stopped making this yarn, which is called art masi. So this is the measurement of proportion of gold in silver. So these are art masi zari, which has 6.5 gram gold in it. So this piece got stolen in Kuching, and we have received this back, and it's in my archive. So this is first piece in the world, Tree of Life. The base fabric is peacock feather. So these are hand woven peacock feather from Banaras. So the technique is extra weft technique, and beetle wings and the Atmasi gold plated silver thread, which I have used for this piece. So my inspiration from Baroda pearl carpet. Here I have used real rubies, emerald, and Basra pearl. These pearls is 150-year-old. Now I know why Baroda carpet is so important, because in Basra pearl you cannot use 0 number needle. The hole is so tiny, you cannot use any kind of needle. Then also it's embroidered. This took few years for me to understand how to use without needle. And everything is embroidered. We don't use any kind of glue or sticking material. We use only embroidery.
So what's the secret?
I'll show you that. So I use different kind of fabric. Now I can show you the ajrak. So this is the hand block printed ajrak using natural dyes done by master Jabbar Khatri from Damanka. And I have, so the ajrak was mainly for sarong and shoulder cloth turban or food mats. And with my embroidery, it became a wedding outfit. So that's how you can promote. So, from my miniature embroidery, artisan got inspired and he has created miniature blocks. So the original size of the blocks are 4 inches. In this they have used 2 inches block. To make one block, you have to overlap 4 blocks. And this is resist block printing using 100% natural dyes called ajrak. So this is the second example. So that's it. This is a metal chain stitch on ajrak, which is a hand woven iris silk, then printed. So it's already washed 16 times. You can wash at home, no problem, only not in machine. So it's very easy to maintain the textile. My flying bird. So I experiment with different kinds of yarn. So these are pashmina yarn, which I have used on pashmina with chain stitch embroidery. So this piece is a very fine muslin, which is hand woven in West Bengal, and embroidery is chain stitch. I have dyed my silk yarn with natural indigo with ombre, and these are my bird series, confluence of bird, which I am presenting this evening. So this is one of the design out of that collection. So beetle wings on pashmina, which is in Indigo Museum in Ahmedabad. So they wanted me to do something on indigo. So these are hand woven pashmina dyed with indigo. I have used indigo silk yarn with beetle wings on it. This is my next collection of, so Serious Art Foundation organized fashion show every year called Walking Hand in Hand. We always walk with the artisan after the collection on the ramp. So my next collection is with Uzbekistan artisan, and this yarn which I have used, the orange yarn in the embroidery. So this is one of the finest example of indigo Ari embroidery. So in this, the orange yarn, which the Uzbek people use for Sujuni embroidery, I have retwisted the yarn, reopened the twisting and retwisted for our embroidery and used for my next embroidery. These are my artwork. So the Thai silk which they use for weaving, so it is a half thickness of embroidery yarn on hand woven silk and linen from West Bengal, and these are different kinds of chain stitches. These are my art, which is exhibitions for galleries and the museum. So I use my embroidery for art pieces also. So this is against light, it looks like this. Confluence of bird, which you will see today. So these are my installation for embroidery, white on white. This is the collection, which is a world traveling exhibition now. This collection took 50,000 hours for 20 outfits. So embroidery can reach on this level. And that was the palace in Ahmedabad. So my label is also hand embroidered. Thank you so much. So I have few sample with me, so if you want to see, you can come and see.
Thank you, Asif, for such a wonderful visual experience. I'm sure you all agree with me that it has been a visual treat to see his work.